Okay, let's just jump right in. What if we could actually rebuild the internet? I'm not talking about just another new app or a cool website. I mean, from the ground up, the very foundation of our digital lives. Well, today, we're going to dive into a really bold vision that's trying to do exactly that. And it all starts with the one thing we all have, our identity. So let's start with a number. And honestly, it's a staggering one. 1.1 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many people, right now, are living without a digital ID. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some abstract statistic. We're talking about a massive, massive barrier that's basically cutting off a huge chunk of humanity from the modern world. You know, for so many people, think about refugees, for example. A simple physical card, just like this one, is their entire lifeline. It's everything. Without a secure digital way to prove who they are just shut out. Shut out from essential services like healthcare, banking, you name it. We're talking about basic human rights here.
But here's the crazy part, the paradox, right? For those of us who do have digital identities, are we actually any safer? I mean, really, think about it. Massive data leaks from the big guys, Facebook, the big telecom companies. It feels like we hear about a new one every other week. It's become totally routine. Our data's just sitting there in these giant centralized honeypots, basically just waiting for the next attack.
So what does that leave us with? It's this awful choice, really. Either you're digitally invisible and totally excluded from the system, or you participate and you get exploited. It's a fundamental dilemma, and honestly, there's just no good answer right now. Okay, but this whole identity crisis, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. It points to a much, much deeper problem. This isn't just about data security anymore. It's about the very soul of the internet. And man, how far it's strayed from its original promise. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Even the guy who invented the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, he admits the dream is kind of soured. He imagined this amazing democratic force, right? But what he sees now is an internet that's actually done the opposite. It's deepened inequality and, yeah, threatens human rights.
And he is definitely not alone. You've got folks like Ethereum's founder, Vitalik Buterin, who puts it, well, a bit more bluntly. He's got this fiery frustration with all the centralized platforms that have totally taken over, acting like these all-powerful gatekeepers to our digital world.
The source material for this explainer uses a really powerful metaphor here, and it's almost a little visceral. They say that these big, capital-centric industries have become like an invasive bullfrog. Just look at it. They're just devouring all the smaller, more creative players in the ecosystem. And we see the fallout from this everywhere, right? Creativity in Hollywood, in the gaming world, it gets stifled by endless sequels and these super safe, risk-averse formulas that are all about maximizing profit. Musicians, artists, they get their work totally exploited, making pennies from millions of streams. At the end of the day, we're just sacrificing long-term, human-centered value for short-term financial gain. And in the process, we've basically lost ownership of our own digital lives. So, what's the fix? How do we even begin to tackle something this big? Well, the proposed solution we're looking at today says we have to start by building a completely new foundation. And it all starts with that core concept, identity. Okay, so at the very heart of the solution is something they call an absolute identifier, or AID for short. Now, the most important part to get here is that it's hardware-based. Think about it like this. A password, that's a secret you know. But a hardware key is something you physically have. It is so much harder for someone to steal a physical key out of your pocket than it is to swipe a password from some hacked server, right? This is what gives you a truly unique, self-sovereign digital identity, one that's completely independent of big tech or any government. And this AID thing, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. It's designed to scale. It can be something as simple as a level 1 security key, kind of like the one you might already use for your email. Or it can scale all the way up to a level 3 device, like your smartphone, which can act as its own secure peer-to-peer terminal. The whole idea is to give everyone a flexible way to secure their identity at a level that actually works for them. This is a fundamental shift in how things work. We go from a world of centralized verification, where a company like Google or Facebook has to say, yep, that's them, to a world of peer-to-peer authentication, where you prove it yourself with your own hardware key. So instead of companies granting you access, you own your keys. Your data stops being the product they sell, and your identity finally becomes your property. The entire model just flips on its head, from permission to real actual ownership.
Okay, so owning your identity, that's a huge technical change for sure. But the true impact, the real game changer here, it's social. This one change unlocks a completely new protocol for how we can all organize ourselves and work together.
Think about it. When every single person truly owns their own identity, the way we structure, well, everything can change. We can move away from that rigid, top-down pyramid that we're all so familiar with from our jobs, right? And we can move toward more flexible, circular models, like a holacracy. This is where authority is distributed, and people can collaborate directly, peer-to-peer, without needing a boss to sign off on everything.
So, what does this world actually look like in practice? Well, imagine a system where a whistleblower could prove their credibility without ever having to reveal their real identity. Or imagine artisans and craftspeople being able to track their unique creations and actually get rewarded fairly for them, no matter where they end up. We could build our own peer-to-peer systems for figuring out who's trustworthy instead of relying on some secret algorithm from a single company.
The whole goal here, the big idea, is to build a digital society where what really matters is your reputation and what you actually contribute, not which platform decided to give you permission to speak.
All right, so we've got the building blocks, right? A new way to handle identity and a new kind of social structure. So the big question is, how does this all come together to actually rebuild the web?
Well, it looks something like this, a mesh network. And what's so cool about this is that it's actually how the web was first envisioned, way back in the day. A true peer-to-peer system. One where we connect directly with each other without having to go through some central hub owned by a giant corporation that's watching and monetizing our every single move.
So here's the path. Step 1, you own your ID with that hardware device. Step 2, that ownership lets you connect directly with other people. Step 3, this direct connection means creators can get paid directly for the value they create. And when you put all of that together, you can build completely new kinds of organizations. They're called platform cooperatives. Imagine a social network, or even a ride-sharing app that's actually owned and run by the people who use it, not by a bunch of distant shareholders.
What this all adds up to is a fundamental shift in our relationship with the internet. The ultimate vision? A web where we are all active participants, not just passive products to be packaged up and sold.
So, there you have it. That's the really ambitious blueprint laid out in the source material we've been exploring. It is a pretty radical proposal, right? To rebuild our entire digital world from the ground up, all starting with our own identity. It's a lot to chew on, for sure. Which leaves us with one final, really crucial question I want to leave you with. What does a truly human-centered web actually look like to you?